Part 76. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 778. The second update is here. The Mid-Autumn Festival is 2 days away. Thank you all for your continued support. I'm so happy. Knowing that her daughter was joking, Zhao Yulan deliberately looked at her daughter with a straight face. Okay, as you said, my mother will stay with Xiaoxian. You can go to the capital by yourself. Chu Xia nodded happily. Okay, as long as my parents are at ease. TCH, Luo Xiaoxian despised her. If you are jealous, just say so. Why are you pretending to be generous? If Uncle Baohe and Aunt Yulan really stay with me, you will definitely go to my parents in tears to settle the score. You think I'm too weak? Chu Xia hugged her with a smile. Forget it, since you don't understand me so much, I won't sleep with you tonight. What did you say? Luo Xiaoxian looked at her in disbelief. Say it again. What's there to say? Chu Xia spread her hands. You hate me so much and don't want to talk to me. It's so boring for me to have a hot face against a cold butt. So, I won't accompany you tonight. I will let's play. Chu Xia, I was wrong. Luo Xiaoxian instantly smiled like a flower, holding Chu Xia's arm and shaking it with a flattering look on her face. I'm leaving tomorrow. I don't know when I'll see you next time. Can you bear it? Just abandon me like this? Don't be angry, it's all my fault. I just thought you only saw the teacher and not me, so I was jealous. It's my fault. Don't be the same as me, okay? Besides, you've known me since I was a child, and you don't know how petty I am, but you should also know that I do this because I care about you. Okay, okay. Chu Xia quickly interrupted her. The more you talk, the more disgusting it becomes. I really can't stand you. Promise to sleep with me tonight. Luo Xiaoxian looked at her and emphasized. I promise not to take away Uncle Baohe and Aunt Yulan, don't worry. Do you think you can snatch it away if you want? Chu Xia rolled her eyes at her. Next time. Before Chu Xia had finished speaking, Luo Xiaoxian quickly grabbed the words. I promise there will be no next time, and I promise I will never wrongly accuse you again. Chu Xia looked at Zhao Yulan, who was looking at the two of them with a smile. Mom, look at her, turning her face is like turning over a book, isn't it? You two grew up together and worked together. It's normal for her to be reluctant to leave you. Zhao Yulan stood up and said, you two sisters, let's talk. I'll go talk to your mother-in-law and the others. I also want to sleep with my aunt. Okay. Ying'er looked at Chu Xia with a look of anticipation on her face. The bed was very big, so there would be no problem for 3 people. Chu Xia glanced at Luo Xiaoxian inquiringly, and when she saw the other person nodded, she agreed, okay, the 3 of us will sleep together tonight. Thank you, Aunt. The little girl looked happy. I'll go talk to Grandma. Chu Xia patted her head. Go ahead. Seeing the little girl jumping away, Luo Xiaoxian lowered her voice. This child is completely different from when he first came here. He finally looks like a child. Yeah, at the beginning, everyone was worried about whether she was faking it. However, for a child who is only 6 years old, it is impossible to think about it. Now after getting to know her, I found that the little girl is actually quite simple-minded, but she is a little sensitive. Luo Xiaoxian sighed, but speaking of it, although her parents are shameless, fortunately the accident happened early. If it takes another 3 or 4 years, the child's personality will be basically fixed, and it will be difficult to change it. That's true. Chu Xia admits this. Although children become sensible when they are 5 or 6 years old, as long as they are guided well, they can quickly correct themselves. Moreover, as we grow older, many things from our childhood will be forgotten. If you are about 10 years old, you have your own sense of right and wrong, and you are about to enter adolescence, it will take several times more time to guide your child. Ziokshan, you go back to your room and take a shower first. I'll chat with the elders for a few words, and then I'll come back to your room to find you. Chu Xia said, calling Xiaojing over and ordering, you prepare a new set of toiletries and send them over my bedroom. Yes, Xiaojing responded and went to the storage room upstairs. Then you go ahead, I'll go up first, Luo Ziokshan said, but couldn't help but said with a worried look, knowing that I occupied you, the elders won't be angry with me, right? They won't welcome me again in the future. Are you coming? Chu Xia teased her, how about I stop accompanying you? It's okay, I'm thick-skinned and don't care, Luo Ziokshan said and went upstairs as if running away. Zhou Jiping and Zhou Xiangping, who had been unaware of Luo Ziokshan's departure, quickly gathered around her. Sister-in-law, is it our turn to summon us? Zhou Xiangping teased Chu Xia with a smile. Chu Xia looked serious and waved her hand, give me a seat. The two of them were stunned for a moment, and when they understood, they fell down on the sofa with laughter. Third sister-in-law, I will have less fun if you leave. Zhou Xiangping pulled Chu Xia with a look of reluctance. You can go with me, Chu Xia encouraged her, I'll go home after class anyway. My parents are both at home when I'm not here, so you won't be bored. Otherwise, let the second sister go too. Zhou Jiping shook her head in a funny way, stop chasing her. If she really dares to follow you, Liao Hui wouldn't have to come to our grandma and cry to our mother every day. Zhou Xiangping, who was looking happy, suddenly lost her temper, my mother-in-law looks very cautious when she sees me now. I'm really afraid of seeing her. You tell me, she won't be able to face me normally. In the past, it seemed that I owed her an unknown amount of money. Now, it seems that she owed me an unknown amount of money. When people are always in a bad mood, as long as I smile less, she will try all kinds of things to ask me. It's not that there's anything she can't do well. Tell me, how does she feel when outsiders see her being so humble? It's like I bully her at home every day, saying that I don't care what others say, but when I listen to others talking about me, how can I really not get angry? What's more, I didn't bully her at all. If I did, that's it. What's going on with being wronged like this? Our mother and grandma couldn't control it even if they wanted to. Is it possible to tell her that you will be tougher on our mistress in the future? That's troublesome again. Sighing, Zhou Xiangping looked like she had a headache. Third sister-in-law, why am I not so lucky as you to have a good mother-in-law like our mother? Brothers and sisters are indeed very lucky. Neither of us has a good mother-in-law. Zhou Jiping patted her sister and said, let's be more open-minded. Compared with those who miss their mother's mother and don't care about her mother-in-law, we are already considered happy. There was no solution to this kind of thing, and Chu Xia couldn't do anything to persuade them. She could only caress the two of them gently and say nothing. Seeing her embarrassment, Zhou Jiping smiled and said, okay, brothers and sisters, we won't take up your time. Go and say hello to the elders. You can go back to your room. Luo Ziokshan will definitely not be used to it if you leave. Please give her some advice, advise her. Zhou Xiangping also said, yes, third sister-in-law, we are just complaining, so don't worry about us. Anyway, the second sister and I are free. I miss you so much that I will go see you. Then I will take my mother and grandma with me. Okay, it's settled. Every week if I don't come back, you will go to the capital with grandma and mom. Chu Xia went over to chat with the elders for a few words before being kicked back to the room. Luo Ziokshan hadn't even entered the bathroom yet. Seeing her come up so quickly, she looked surprised. Is this the end of the conversation? Yes, you asked me to come back to accompany you immediately, because I was afraid that you wouldn't be able to adapt to me leaving, Chu Xia said while rubbing Ying'er, who was sitting obediently by the bed. Ying'er is stronger than Aunt Ziokshan, isn't she? The little girl smiled sheepishly. Aunt Ziokshan is brave. She lives in her own dormitory. It's better, Ying-er Luoziokshan muttered, quickly entered the bathroom, closed the door. Her eyes were red, and she couldn't describe her current mood. She was reluctant to leave Chusia, because she had been a companion with her since she was a child. With this companion around, she seemed to feel more at ease in her heart. Being far away, she felt like she had lost her backbone. At the same time, she was moved by the Zhou family's understanding of her. She also knew that it was wrong for her to let Chusia accompany her that night. She wanted to refuse, but was reluctant to let go, but she was worried in her heart. Now, finally feeling at ease. When the water in the bathroom sounded, Chusia sighed quietly. How could she not understand Luoziokshan's feelings, but everyone must be independent one day, including her. Relatively speaking, she is luckier than Luoziokshan, but she cannot just accept it just because someone is protecting her. When she arrives in the capital, she must also exercise her ability to be independent. What she wants to do is be a wife who fights side by side with Zhou Mikang. It's not like he will always protect his wife who is dragging him down. Little aunt. Ying-er shook Xuxia's arm and raised her face to look at her. I have something to tell you. Don't tell anyone else, okay? What's going on? Chuxia thought it was something between children, so she pinched her nose and looked serious. Just tell me, I promise not to tell anyone else. My mother went to the kindergarten to find me. She went secretly. She didn't allow me to tell anyone. She also said that she would come to see me again in the future. If I told me, I would never see her again. After being stunned for a while, Chuxia straightened the little girl's body and looked at her seriously. When did your mother go find you? Is there anyone else with her? Before this, she was still thinking that Zhou Yiping was cruel enough. She had left the child here for several months, but she could actually manage it without even looking at it. Speaking of which, she didn't make any big mistakes. If when she returned to the Zhou family, she truly regretted it. There was no way the elders of the Zhou family would disown her. She had also said this to Zhou Mikang in private. The other party just hugged her and sighed, without saying anything else. However, she did not expect that she had wronged him. She went there the day before yesterday. Ying-er's little head unconsciously poked forward and lowered her voice. Mom's belly is bulging, just like my aunt's ours. The fastest update, no pop-ups please read. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 779. One update arrived. I know mom is pregnant with the baby. Seeing that Chuxia was silent for a long time, Ying-er came to her own conclusion. There were several pregnant women in the family. Although she was young, she could tell what pregnancy was and what was. It's fat. You. After hesitating, Chuxia still asked, have you ever asked mom about having a baby? No, the little girl bit her lip, with a glimmer of water in her eyes. I don't dare to ask. I'm afraid that if I ask, my mother will never visit me again. Other classmates have mothers, and I can't let them joke. In this era, there are very few divorces, and there are also very few children from single-parent families. In the eyes of children, this is a very shameful thing. Therefore, it is not surprising that Ying-er thinks so. Chuxia felt sorry for her, holding her in her arms and stroking her gently. Ying-er, it's your parents who did something wrong, not Ying-er. If any classmate dares to laugh at Ying-er, Ying-er will call and tell her aunt. Help Ying-er vent her anger. They all said secretly that they didn't dare to bully me. Ying-er sighed like a little adult, and looked at Chuxia pitifully. Little aunt, did my mother no longer want me after she gave birth to a baby? No, Ying-er will always be her mother's child. Even if her mother doesn't come to see Ying-er, Ying-er will still be her mother's child. However, does Ying-er mind if her aunt tells her uncle about this? Chuxia looked at it seriously. Little girl, ask for the other party's opinion. only by telling your uncle can I help you check your mother's current situation and see what she plans. Okay, I listen to my little aunt. Biting her lip, the little girl explained, I love my little aunt more, but everyone else has a mother, and I want to have a mother too. I know the little girl's sensible attitude made Chusia feel a little sad. At such a young age, she knew how to care about other people's thoughts. If she wasn't too insecure inside, how could she be like this? The little girl suddenly raised her head and looked at Chusia seriously. Little aunt, when you have a baby, will you still like Ying-er? Chusia nodded, of course. After hesitating for a moment, the little girl bit her lip shyly, do you want to like the baby more? This question was really hard to answer. I didn't want to lie to my children, so Chusia asked instead, what do you think of Ying-er? The little girl hesitated for a long time and then said, of course I like the baby more, because she, is younger than me. I want to like him, her, together with my aunt. I am the eldest sister and I want to protect them. Good. That's a deal. Chusia kissed her forehead and rubbed her head lovingly, when they grow up, they will protect Ying-er in turn. Yeah, the little girl nodded her head vigorously. For a moment, she held Chusia's hand and said with an embarrassed look on her face, little aunt, I was wrong. I thought that my little aunt wouldn't like me after she had a baby. She would also give birth to a baby. So angry. Silly girl. Chusia looked at her funny, you are so obedient, and it's too late for aunt to love you. How could she not like you? What a little fool. Hee hee. After feeling relieved, the little girl grinned at Chusia. Just when Luo Xiaoxian came out of the bathroom and saw the appearance of the two of them, she was stunned and joked to Chusia, if I didn't know, I would see you two looking like this, I thought you were mother and daughter. Chusia pushed Ying-er, why don't you go please your aunt Xiaoxian? She's jealous. After getting out of bed and putting on her shoes, she walked up to Luo Xiaoxian. The little girl looked at him seriously, Aunt Xiaoxian, can you tell me, are you jealous that my aunt is nice to me or are you jealous that I am nice to my aunt? A group of crows flew over Luo Xiaoxian's head. She turned to glare at Chusia with dissatisfaction on her face, is it appropriate to accuse me so unjustly in front of my children? It's quite suitable. Chusia got out of bed and pulled Ying-er to the bathroom, I'll wash you after I wash it. I'll do it. Luo Xiaoxian stepped forward to stop her, you are a key protection target now, so be careful. Okay, you help Ying-er wash, and I'll go talk to Zhou Mikang about something. Chusia reached out and caressed Ying-er's little head, after you take a bath, let Aunt Xiaoxian help you blow dry your hair before going to bed. Yes, the little girl nodded her head vigorously, her eyes full of expectation. Obviously, she was looking forward to Zhou Yiping coming back. Even though she said she was not close to her mother, she still looked forward to living with her mother in her heart. This is nature. Chusia may have something to do with me. Zhou Mikang was still chatting with Zhou Zikang downstairs. When he saw Chusia coming downstairs, he said goodbye to Zhou Zikang and quickly greeted him, what's wrong? It's about Zhou Yiping. Chusia sighed unconsciously, but Ying-er doesn't want too many people to know. Okay, let's go back to the room and talk. Zhou Mikang went upstairs, of course to the guest room where he would stay that night. After entering the house, Chusia told Zhou Yiping about going to find Ying-er. In fact, she had always been wondering about the Zhou family's attitude towards Zhou Yiping. Even if she didn't like Zhou Yiping, she was a flesh and blood of the Zhou family after all. After she suddenly disappeared, it's really weird to not care about it. But every time she brought it up, Zhou Mikang responded silently. She believed that there must be a reason that she didn't know. She even felt that Zhou Mikang was avoiding this problem. But why is this? Today, it seemed that it was time for the mystery to be revealed, and she was actually a little nervous unconsciously. She still has some conscience. Zhou Mikang sighed heavily and looked at Chusia, you have asked about this matter many times. It's not that I don't want to tell you, but I haven't thought about how to say it, or in other words, I haven't think about how to face it. Zhou Yiping chose to be with Xiaoyuan herself, but before Xiaoyuan, she had a first boyfriend named Chen Yuegong. Chen Yuegong was Chen Yuqiang's younger brother, and Chen Yuqiang was the murderer of Xiaoreo. Chu Xia stared at Zhou Mikang in shock. She never expected that the truth would be like this. Then, the attitude of the Zhou family could be completely explained. Back then, because Chen Yuqiang killed Zhou Xiaoreo, it was naturally impossible for the Zhou family to accept his younger brother as the son-in-law of the Zhou family. Similarly, the Zhou family sent Chen Yuqiang to the guillotine, and it was impossible for the Cheng family to accept Zhou Yiping as the Cheng family's daughter-in-law. Therefore, when Zhou Yiping disappeared, the Zhou family probably had already thought of this. With the power of the Zhou family, it was not difficult to find out where Zhou Yiping was. The result is unacceptable to everyone, but what can we do? Are you going to force Zhou Yiping back? If she really comes back, what will be the result? A family that is already at loggerheads will only become more tense, right? Before the accident, Chen Yuqiang was an ordinary worker in the factory. No one would pay attention to such an honest man. Who would have thought that he turned out to be the leader of an illegal organization? The matter between Zhou Yiping and Chen Yuegong was actually planned by him. After he knew that the two were classmates, he deliberately asked people to find fault with Zhou Yiping and let Chen Yuegong save the beauty. Chen Yuegong was a good-looking man, and Zhou Yiping fell in love with him as soon as they went back and forth. Our family did not pay attention to being well matched, so the two of them did not encounter any resistance when they were together. Chen Yuqiang is Chen Yuegong's brother, so he can naturally see Zhou Yiping often, get some information he needs from her, and discuss marriage. He has been to Zhou's house several times, and he also knows Xiaoreo. Otherwise, he wouldn't have kidnapped Xiaoreo so easily. In fact, he didn't want to kill Xiaoreo at the time, but he couldn't decide what happened next. Speaking of this, Zhou Mikang's voice sank. This kind of pain could not be comforted by any words. Chu Xia leaned in his arms and hugged his arms, hoping to give him some strength. After a while, after the mood calmed down, Zhou Mikang continued, when something like this happened, Zhou Yiping emphasized that Chen Yuegong should not be blamed for what Chen Yuqiang did, and she hoped that her family would not blame Chen Yuegong. During that time, she had a very serious quarrel with her family and even ran away from home. However, the Cheng family did not accept her, pointed at her nose and called her a broom star, saying that if it weren't for her, Chen Yuqiang would not have died. The Cheng family only had 2 sons, and Chen Yuqiang was gone. Chen Yuegong was filial and could not disobey his parents, so he told Zhou Yiping that if he hadn't known her, his brother would never have had the chance to participate in this matter, and naturally he would not have died. Not only his family couldn't accept her, and he couldn't accept her either. After being kicked out by the Cheng family, Zhou Yiping wandered around and met Xiaoyuan. At that time, the Xiao family was incomparable to ours. Knowing her identity and background, Xiaoyuan made great efforts to pursue her. Within a month, the two got married. In fact, everyone knows very well that Zhou Yiping is willing to marry Xiaoyuan not because she really likes him, but to anger Chen Yuegong and to demonstrate to her family. When they first got married, the relationship between the two was pretty good. Later, the conditions of the Xiao family improved, and the Zhou family refused to work with the Xiao family. Xiaoyuan's treatment of Zhou Yiping became worse and worse. Zhou Yiping once secretly went to find Chen Yuegong, hoping to reunite with him. Chen Yuegong took her to the dock where he worked and told her that what he earned through hard work in a month was enough to save his parents. If he married, he and she will live a life without food and clothing, and it is impossible for her parents to give her a good look. From then on, Zhou Yiping gave up the idea of returning to Chen Yuegong and devoted herself wholeheartedly to pleasing Xiaoyuan. This was also the reason why Xiao Yuan was not welcomed in the Zhou family, and Zhou Yiping would protect her with all her life. However, she looked away. The side path taken by the Xiao family father and son is destined not to last long. After Xiao Yuan's accident, I was surprised that Zhou Yiping went to find Chen Yuegong. However, so many years have passed since the incident, and Chen Yuegong is willing to treat her sincerely, and she is willing to live a good life with him, so let her go. Have you been spying on the Cheng family all these years? Chu Xia asked the question in her heart. Otherwise, how could Zhou Mikang know that Zhou Yiping had wanted to reunite with Chen Yuegong? Rs. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 780. Please remember the website address, please contact your QQ group. Chen Yuegong came to me himself and told me. Zhou Mikang sighed. To be honest, Chen Yuegong is also pitiful. He doesn't know anything about his brother. At that time, he really wanted to be with Zhou Yiping, and he was especially grateful to his brother for helping him create opportunities. The person closest to him suddenly turned into a despicable person who took advantage of him and got himself implicated. How would he feel in his heart? His parents couldn't bear this sudden blow, and they both fell ill in bed. The burden of supporting the family fell on him, but because he was implicated by his brother, he lost his iron job and could only find a job that was hard, tiring and had little money. Of temporary work. At that time, he had become a frightened bird, so after Zhou Yiping went to find him, he quickly found me and explained the situation to me, and promised that he would never associate with Zhou Yiping again. In fact, I never took my anger out on him for his brother's mistakes. However, not taking my anger out on him doesn't mean I accept it, so I didn't give him a good face at that time. This time Zhou Yiping went to see him, and he secretly wrote a letter to his eldest brother, saying that after all these years, Zhou Yiping could still think of him. He didn't want to miss it, and he hoped to get the forgiveness of Zhou's family. After the eldest brother showed me the letter, we went to find my grandfather, father, and third uncle together. They couldn't believe that Zhou Yiping, who had always been delicate, could go to the Cheng family to live a life of hardship. But after investigation, the facts were revealed, and finally everyone decided to acquiesce. But no contact. The eldest brother found Chen Yuegong and told him the Zhou family's decision, and also explained that the Zhou family did not want to associate with them. As for whether he should tell Zhou Yiping all this, it was up to him. Then, I never contacted him again. I didn't tell you. It's not that I intentionally hide it from you, nor that I don't believe you. I just have an instinctive resistance to this past incident. I am determined not to mention it if I can. Chu Xia sighed and hugged Zhou Mikang's arm. I can understand what you are thinking, and I don't mean to blame you. It's just that I feel that since I have become a member of the Zhou family, there is something wrong. Let me know, then you must be strong if you hide it from me. Otherwise, if one day I meet Zhou Yiping and cause some misunderstandings because I don't know anything, the final result may be something neither of us wants. It's not that I want to meddle in other people's business, but because I married you and became the mother of your child, I have already been branded with the Zhou family. Zhou Mikang sighed heavily and said, this is a knot in the hearts of the Zhou family. Except for me, my eldest brother, my grandfather, my father, and my third uncle, no one else knows about it. I finally calmed down. I don't want you to think about it too much. In fact, Grandma asked Grandpa several times, but Grandpa kept talking. I understand. Chu Xia also sighed. I really can't say who is right or wrong about this matter. In fact, when you first said it, I thought Zhou Yiping was going too far. No matter what, I can't marry into the Cheng family. it will reopen the scars that everyone has healed. However, think about the cause and effect. She and Chen Yuegang were both victims. Whether it was for other reasons or not, Chen Yuegang was not married until today and was willing to be with her, which was considered a happy ending. I hope. Zhou Mikang smiled bitterly. Her personality is very similar to the previous third aunt, but what she did this time is so unexpected. If she really wants to be with Chen Yuegang, it is indeed a happy ending. If she has other ideas, it's hard to say. Any other ideas? After thinking about it for a while, Chu Xia looked at Zhou Mikang uncertainly. You mean what she is doing now is actually out of anger and revenge? We don't want to think about her like that, but what she did this time is very different from her personality, so let's take it one step at a time. Now that the new year is over, it's time to tell grandma and mom. Otherwise, if Zhou Yiping does something inappropriate, it will make her mother and grandma sad. Her being able to go to Ying'er is a signal. If it is true as Zhou Mikang guessed, Chu Xia is really speechless towards Zhou Yiping. If a person always makes impulsive decisions that harm others in order to take revenge on others, then he really deserves to have a bad life. The third aunt has no contact with Zhou Yiping, right? Chu Xia asked and then added, I'm talking about the former third aunt Lu Lingmei. Probably not. She sighed and said, the third aunt is pregnant now. What Grandpa is most worried about is that Lu Lingmei will do something to the third aunt. Therefore, Grandpa sends people to the people around her and whatever she does. Staring. That's good. Chu Xia breathed a sigh of relief. There are several pregnant women at home. I'm just worried, so I asked more questions. A gentle smile appeared on Zhou Mikang's lips. You fool, you don't need to explain to me. You have the right to know this. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to be troubled. If you have any questions in the future, just ask me and I will tell you the truth. Humph. Chu Xia rolled her eyes at him. I asked you earlier, did you tell the truth? Zhou Mikang. Okay, I'm teasing you. Chu Xia poked him and turned serious. I know the importance of Xiaoreo in the hearts of the Zhou family, and I even know the importance of her in your hearts. I'm very glad that I found a good person. How can you really blame him if you are the husband of a man who is affectionate? This kind of thing will never happen again. Zhou Mikang hugged her. This is the last secret you don't know. When Chu Xia returned to the room, Ying'er was already asleep. Luo Xiaoxian was leaning on the bed with a book. He watched her come in, looked at her up and down for a while, and laughed. Chu Xia was speechless. Can you please stop being so scary? You two are really inseparable. Luo Xiaoxian winked at her. Don't drink. I'm sorry. I understand. Besides, I'm only happy to see that you and the teacher have such a good relationship. I'm too lazy to talk to you. Chu Xia took the bathrobe and went straight to the bathroom. Luo Xiaoxian smiled behind her. Are you embarrassed? It's okay, I won't laugh at you. After thinking about it, he ran to the bathroom door and asked softly, you can't do that now, can you? What answered her was the sound of water. Why are you standing here? She pushed the door open and saw Luo Xiaoxian still standing at the door of the bathroom. Chu Xia was startled and stared at her dissatisfied. Do you know that scary people can scare you to death? What's more, I have 3 lives now. As he said this, he reached out and covered his stomach. Luo Xiaoxian, who originally had a bad smile on her face, panicked. I didn't scare you, did I? You don't feel uncomfortable, right? I didn't mean to do it. Chu Xia, I'm sorry, I won't fool around with you anymore. Seeing that she was really scared, Chu Xia stopped teasing her. Put away those dirty thoughts of yours. I really have something to do with Zhou Mikang, and it's not what you think. What did I think? Seeing that Chu Xia was fine, Luo Xiaoxian started to mess around again. I didn't say anything. Chu Xia, isn't it because you really feel guilty and want to explain it on purpose? I'm too lazy to pay attention to you. Chu Xia rolled her eyes at her. leaned against the bed comfortably, and picked up a book. "Talk to me for a while." Luo Xiaoxian took the book from her hand and smiled in a flattering manner. "Chu Xia, I was wrong, stop talking nonsense." "That's pretty much it." Chu Xia looked serious. "By the way, there's something I have to remind you. The girl who wants to hitchhike today is not a kind-hearted girl at first glance. Please be careful and don't get caught." She said, "If you really encounter any difficulties, just call me and I will ask my mother-in-law to help you. That woman's name is Gao Ziahe. Her father is a section chief of the Agricultural Machinery Bureau. She usually has her eyes on the top of her head. She thinks that all the men in the world like her." Luo Xiaoxian curled her lips. "This kind of person's methods are just that. That's what happened. Don't worry, I won't be tricked by her. Don't be careless. Remember to tell Dean Su when you go to work tomorrow so that she can have an idea." Chu Xia stared at Luo Xiaoxian seriously. "Don't take my words seriously." "I know, I won't take it seriously." Luo Xiaoxian smiled and sat next to her. "I have something happy to tell you, do you want to hear it?" "What happy event?" Chu Xia glanced at her belly. "Don't tell me that you are pregnant too." "Disgusting," Luo Xiaoxian poked her. "If I get pregnant, it won't be a happy event but a horror. De Zhang has a girlfriend." "Guess who it is?" "De Zhang has a girlfriend." Chu Xia's eyes widened in shock. "Are you sure you're not mistaken?" "TCH, would I joke about this kind of thing? He wouldn't admit it if I hadn't hit him. He asked me to keep it a secret, but you are his sister. I can't keep it a secret from you, right?" After thinking for a while, Chu Xia really couldn't guess who it was, so she pushed Luo Xiaoxian and said, "Don't be pretentious and tell me who it is." "Johanning." Ah, Chu Xia was even more stunned this time. There was really no way to connect these two people. They both didn't talk much, so why did they become a couple? When did it happen? They said they met before the Chinese New Year and confirmed their relationship in the past few days. Judging from the way Dejiang talked about it, he was quite satisfied with Johanning. He said he didn't want his family to know because he was not sure whether the two of them could be together. Together? Johanning was worried that his parents would think Luan Dejiang was too young, so he thought about telling his family in 2 years, but Luan Dejiang felt that another 2 years would delay Johanning, and now he is conflicted. "To be honest, I didn't expect that Meng Hulu found a girlfriend quietly. When I went home a few days ago, your sister-in-law was still worried about this matter. I didn't expect it to be resolved so quickly." After thinking for a while, Chu Xia asked, "Did you ask him if Johan Liang knew about it?" "Johan Liang doesn't know yet." Chu Xia frowned. "Can you tell me in detail?" "To be continued." "Domain name of this book, please tell each other to promote it." "Thank you." "Use the Ctrl+D shortcut key to bookmark it." "First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind." Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 781. Zhou Mikang didn't know that Chu Xia had bitten her tongue. She just thought she was dissatisfied with him for calling her out in front of so many people and became angry, and the anger was quite serious. Otherwise, with her little hedgehog temper, how could she not be willing to teach him a lesson? Just a few words and then leave? Holding your breath to sleep will harm your body. In line with the principle of considering Chu Xia's health, Zhou Mikang took 2 hurried steps and grabbed her. "Okay, don't be angry. How about you hit me twice more to relieve my anger?" Chu Xia turned around and stared fiercely at the paw that was grabbing her. "Xin Xiao, let go." Huh, the leader, Tongzi, didn't quite understand the meaning of these 2 words, so he subconsciously responded with a questioning tone. Someone's serious look made the group leader Tongzi burst into laughter. What if I don't let go? Don't forget what you promised me. If you break your promise, I can also break your promise. Joe Mikang's face sank. What are you thinking about in your little head all day long? What do you think I'm thinking about? Marrying me makes you feel so wronged? Are you always thinking about breaking off the engagement with me? That's what you thought. That's obviously what you meant. Whatever you think, Chu Xia waved her paw. I'm going back to participate in class activities. Captain Joe, walk slowly. The group leader, Tongzi, was so angry that he was breathing heavily. He really wanted to grab her and give her a lesson, but at this moment, if he kept her for too long, I'm afraid her dislike of him will become more serious. Forget it. Spare her once, if she dares to be so angry with him next time. See how he deals with her. Now that you have made an engagement with him, you must be committed to him. Snored. Thinking of going back on your word? There is no way. The leader of the regiment, Tongzi, who was leaving in a hurry, did not realize at this time that at some point his happiness and anger had been completely controlled by someone. Lin Chuxia. As soon as she turned into the girls' dormitory area, Chu Xia was startled by the sudden appearance of a dark figure. Lin Chuxia. It was you who seduced Captain Joe, right? Rao Shui stared at Chu Xia hatefully. If a knife in the eyes could kill people, Chu Xia would have died 800 times by now. Crazy, Chu Xia, who was in a bad mood, didn't bother to talk to her. Push her aside and continue moving forward. Rao Shui grabbed her anxiously. Stop, please explain before leaving. I have already told you that he is my man. Why are you so mean? He is your man. Why are you looking for him? Why are you looking for me? Chu Xia nodded at her hand with her chin. Take your claws away, or you will bear the consequences. Get out. If you don't want me to throw you out, get out. The expression and tone of the regiment leader Tongzi at that time suddenly appeared in Rao Shui's mind. The dissatisfaction in my heart became even deeper. This Lin Chuxia even sounded like the leader of the group when she spoke. How shameless. Thinking like this. She grabbed Chu Xia's sleeves and subconsciously tightened her grip. When did you start seducing him? Have you been kicked in the head by a donkey? Chu Xia glanced at her coldly. Rao Shui, let me say it again. Release your paw, otherwise, you will be responsible for the consequences. Meow, I'm holding on to you and won't let you go. Another one is holding on to him and refusing to let him go. Are they the only ones who are overbearing? Wouldn't she? It's difficult to beat up others, but she can beat this Rao Shui. Seeing Chu Xia's anger and thinking about her own strength, Rao Shui had no choice but to let go of her hand. Lin Chuxia, can you tell me the truth? Do you also have a crush on the leader? She let go, and Chu Xia's anger was no longer so great. Thinking about it, if she didn't explain clearly, it would be quite annoying to have such a fly pestering her in the future, so she said, you should ask the group leader about this, shouldn't you? Ask me, do you understand? Now that you like him and want to pursue him, then the person you face should be him, not me. Whether he accepts you or not, whether he likes you or not, is not something I can control or influence. What's the use of telling me these things? If you have the guts, go pull him and force him to give you an answer. Does forcing work? It's not like she didn't force him and was thrown out. If she dared to force him again, then she would really be a fool. Wasn't it because she had no choice, so she came to her to inquire about the situation? Rao Shui cursed secretly and forced a smile. Lin Chuxia, I know it's wrong for me to push you like this. I just want an answer. Do you also have a crush on the leader? To tell you the truth, I have liked him for many years. I liked him when he was with his former fiancée, but I was too young at that time, and he also had a crush on me, so I had to bury this feeling in my heart. When he just broke up with his fiancée, I didn't want to take advantage of him. Later, he couldn't let go, and I was more self-aware, so I didn't bother him. No, starting from this year, his mood has finally gotten better. Besides, I look a bit similar to his previous fiancée, so I thought, maybe it's time for him to accept me. But unexpectedly, now there is you in the middle, Lin Chuxia. I don't care if you like him or not, I must tell you the truth, for a family like yours, the Zhou family will not like you. Rather than being disgraced when the time comes, it's better to let go now. I promise you that as long as you are useful in the future, I will do my best to help you, okay? Chu Xia stared at Rao Shui amusedly. You mean, you look very similar to the leader's fiancé, and the leader has not forgotten his ex-fiancé, so you are willing to take over, right? Right. Then go pick it up. And you? Me? Why do you care about me? Chu Xia raised an eyebrow and looked at her. What does your matter have to do with me? You mean you will stay away from the group for a long time in the future? No. Then you. After talking for a long time and still getting the same result, Rao Shui's face became more and more ugly. Isn't this Lin Chuxia too difficult to deal with? How could a yellow-haired girl from a poor rural area be so ignorant of current affairs? I don't want to repeat it again, whoever you like. Just go after whoever you like and don't bother me. Chu Xia frowned and looked at her. If you have the ability, tell Captain Zhou not to see me again in the future. That way, I will thank you. You say. Chu Xia interrupted her, I will leave division at tomorrow. Why are you worried? Rao Shui slapped her forehead fiercely, right? How could she forget this? When she saw Captain Zhou leaving her alone, she almost went crazy. She wanted to find her immediately and warned her to stay away from the group, but she forgot. She will go to 401 to report tomorrow, and even if she wants to get close to the group leader, it will be impossible. I have known the group leader for so many years and I have learned a lot about his temper from my sister. Are you waiting for him to take the initiative to chase girls? Unless the sun comes out from the west. And she stayed in Division A, and those who were near the water and the towers got the moon first. What was she struggling with? Thinking like this, he stopped talking to Chu Xia and turned around to go back to the dormitory of Class 4. Staring at her back, Chu Xia was speechless. Unexpectedly, that violent man actually has such a loyal fan. After all, he has been in love with him for 6 or 7 years. Are children of this era so precocious? Back to the dormitory in early summer. Naturally, everyone asked, and everyone was still very curious about the leader leaving her alone. It's nothing. Teacher Song asked him to tell me what to bring tomorrow. Hearing her say this, everyone looked stunned. I just thought, why did the group leader have an intersection with Lin Chuxia? It turns out that he was entrusted by someone, so that makes sense. Not even Lu Meijun, who was very familiar with Chu Xia, had any doubts. After all, the possibility of something happening between the regiment leader and a rural female soldier was really low. Yang Xiaoli, who knew the details, smiled at Chu Xia and pulled her to sit next to her. Everyone will be separated tomorrow. Each person will have a show. You quickly think about what to perform. Qiao Ning-I laughed, does she still need to think about it? The singing is so beautiful, let's sing more songs for everyone. Yuan Mengmeng couldn't help but roll her eyes. Lin Chuxia, I found that you are really a fool. The art troupe is such a good place, but you gave up. What is your brain made of? Chu Xia glanced at her lightly. Yuan Mengmeng, I noticed that you feel uncomfortable even if you don't harm others. What is your brain made of? Yuan Mengmeng snorted coldly and turned his head away from looking at her. Qiao Ning sighed, we will be separated tomorrow. Is this necessary? Yuan Mengmeng said unconvinced, I mean well, I feel sorry for her, look at her bad attitude. Chu Xia glared at her, can you kill someone if you talk nicely? Hey, everyone, take a look, what do I bring? Lin Mengran opened the door and came in, proudly raising the bottle in her hand. Chu Xiaojing, who was following her, looked helpless. Erkuatu, Qiao Ning stared at her in surprise, where did you get the wine? It was stolen from the kitchen. Lin Mengran smiled slyly, they thought they were hiding it well, huh, how could they hide it from me? As he said this, he motioned for everyone to take out the teapot. I don't know how to drink. Zhang Erniu held up the teapot with an embarrassed look on her face. Do you still know how to drink this? Lin Mengran raised an eyebrow, just pour it into your mouth and swallow it while holding your breath. After drinking this glass of wine, everyone must remember that we are in class 3 when we go out. No matter where you go, you can't lose the face of class 3. As he spoke, he patted Yuan Mengmeng, did you hear that? You are the most troublesome in the whole class. Remember, if I know that you have embarrassed class 3, or helped outsiders deal with our sisters from class 3, don't blame me for being rude. We have been together for so long, and you still don't know what my family does. Today, I will introduce myself to my family. My family has been practicing martial arts for generations. The Lin family in northern Hunan refers to our family. Qiao Ning took a deep breath, is it the Lin family whose 10 people killed a company of Japanese? That's right. My grandfather's nickname is Guiji Unjo. Puff. Zhang Erniu blushed and waved her hands, I didn't mean it. There is a scoundrel in our village, and others call him Gaijian Ku. Stinky girl, Lin Mengran slapped her, my grandpa's nickname means that the devils will feel guilty when they see him, which is different from the devil in your village. I know, Zhang Erniu nodded with admiration, no wonder you ran so fast, I will know now. Sun Shangmei came over holding a wine glass, the hero I admire most is Lin Mengran. Let's have a drink. Come on, Lin Mengran happily drank the wine in the teapot, poured it for himself, and shouted at everyone, if anyone doesn't drink tonight, it means that he looks down on the sisters and will leave the 3rd class in the future. When she said this, Yuan Mengmeng and Qi Jihong, who were still arrogant, quickly came over with a vat. Yang Xiaoli had already drank, how dare they not drink? There was wine and singing. This night was the most lively one since joining the army. Everyone didn't know how to drink. After a while, their faces turned red and they spoke more freely than usual. Even Yuan Mengmeng, who had always been awkward, stepped forward and hooked Chu Xia's neck. Lin Chu Xia, let me tell you, although I laugh at you, I really do it for your own good. You said you were born in a rural area, your family is not rich, and your health is not good. Why don't you think more about yourself and your family? Think about it. Being a doctor is good, but if you want to do it well and want your parents to live well, have you ever thought about how much effort you have to put in? It's different when you join the art troupe. You have a good voice, you can play the piano, and you're good looking. Within 2 years, you'll be the mainstay. Do you understand what the pillar is? It doesn't matter who you are without, but you can't be without you. At that time, it won't be difficult at all for you to ask for a sweet and bring your parents over. You fool, a fool who doesn't understand anything, such a good opportunity has been wasted. If I had that kind of opportunity, I would definitely seize it. I am jealous of you, but I was originally confused, so what can I say? Never do anything behind your back. You don't do tricks. Sun Shangmei stepped forward and patted her, you don't do tricks, but you like to complain. I will also say something good for you. From now on, no one will let you go out of this door. Change your bad temper, otherwise, within 3 days you will be so isolated that you want to die. Talking the truth after drinking, Lin Mengran laughed and patted Xiao Ning Ai, squad leader, do you know why I stole the wine? 3 months of love is not deep enough. I'm afraid that if we are separated like this, we will forget I understand this love. Xiao Ning Ai grabbed her neck and said, if you care about this relationship so much, why do you usually ignore others? Observe, Lin Mengran raised his head proudly, I'm observing everyone to see if the members of class 3 are worthy of my friendship. By the way, who in our class will be the most promising in the future, do you dare to guess? Xiao Ning Ai smiled lightly and said, aren't you going to tell me or yourself? Of course, Lin Mengran pointed his finger on his forehead, I am the best, I must. After saying that, he fell on the bed with a gudong and snored loudly. Chu Xiaojing smiled sheepishly at everyone, she has such a temper. Once she drinks, she is no longer her. I'm afraid it won't be until dawn, so everyone should go to bed early. Xiao Ning Ai poked Lin Mengran, and then poked her harder. He was sleeping like a dead pig, not even moving. She looked at Chu Xiaojing speechlessly, I only care about one thing, drunk talk. Will she remember tomorrow? Mobile phone users, please go to M to read. Domain name of this book, please tell each other to promote it. Thank you. Use the Ctrl+D shortcut key to bookmark it. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 782. Please remember the website address of this site. Please recommend promotional introductions to your QQ group Weibo/WeChat forum post bar. Will be updated soon. Zhao Yulan also fell silent after hearing Chu Xia repeat Ying'er's words. If a 6-year-old child wasn't worried about being abandoned again, how would he live so insecure? Speaking of which, the Zhou family is good enough to her now, especially Wang Lei, who basically treats her as their own daughter. The care and dedication of so many people still fail to make the little girl feel at ease. It can only be said that she has been subjected to the suffering impressed her deeply. When I come back, I will tell my mother and the others about Zhou Yiping, and I will also let them pay attention to Ying'er's matter. Zhou Mikang suddenly interrupted. Obviously, he didn't mind that his father-in-law and mother-in-law knew about Zhou Yiping. Seeing the doubts on their parents' faces, Chu Xia briefly told Zhou Yiping's story. After a long silence, Zhao Yulan sighed, this is really a crime. It's okay for adults to say it, but it's hard on the child. Lin Baohe's view was a little different, it depends on how you think about it. In the Zhou family, she is loved by so many people. She lacks nothing and no one bullies her. Compared to most children, Ying'er is happy. After thinking for a while, Zhao Yulan still disagreed with her husband's remarks, that's what I say, but which child doesn't want to have a father and a mother? Let me tell you, they shouldn't have children like this. Chu Xia smiled and hugged Zhao Yulan's arm, Mom is right, you don't care about raising children, so what the hell? I am the happiest, having such a good father and mother. You kid. Zhao Yulan glanced at Zhou Mikang secretly and pretended to scold her daughter, if you don't have good parents-in-law and a good husband, you won't be happy either. The corners of Zhou Mikang's mouth curled up slightly. It's really great to be taken seriously by the mother-in-law. The car arrived in Beijing at exactly 10 o'clock in the morning. The house is right next to the main entrance of the school. It is an ordinary small courtyard with 4 main rooms and 6 side rooms. The yard is about 60 or 70 square meters. It is not big, but it is very cozy. The yard and room were all cleaned up. When the car stopped, a man and a woman came out to greet them. They are all about 50 years old, very neat and tidy, and their appearance is very upright. After helping to carry the things into the house, Zhou Mikang introduced the identities of the two of them. The man was Wang Zhongliang and the woman was Qin Yingfen. They were a couple. They took care of the family in the capital in early summer. It was obvious that Zhao Yulan and Lin Baohe wanted to refuse. Zhou Mixang said quickly, "Father, Mother, I know you two can take good care of Chu Xia. But you are not familiar with the place here, so it is not convenient for you to go out and buy things. Uncle Wang and Aunt Qin are from Beijing, and Uncle Wang can drive. You are also very skilled, and you have him and Aunt Qin staying with you. I can rest assured that I can catch up with you during the early summer break when you want to go back to Sitia, but I can't do it. It would be more convenient to ask Uncle Wang to drive you. You can absolutely rest assured about their character, otherwise I wouldn't dare to leave them here. They only have one son, who is a soldier in the army, and their character is absolutely fine." Although they still couldn't accept it, thinking about their daughter's safety, Zhao Yulan and Lin Baohe still agreed. At worst, they would just treat each other as a family. Hearing that the couple relented, Uncle Wang and Aunt Qin finally relaxed their worries. After greeting everyone, they went into the kitchen to cook together. "Xiaomi, when did you find someone?" Zhao Yulan asked Zhou Mikang in a low voice. "Actually, just arrange for someone who can drive. I can do the cooking and other things myself." Zhou Mikang smiled and said, "Mom, we are a couple. The couple doesn't have to work together, right?" Zhao Yulan looked at her son-in-law speechlessly. If he said this, who would dare to recruit people? "Okay, don't be picky about your child's wishes." Lin Baohe looked at Zhou Mikang with a smile. "Xiaomi, we are both happy from the bottom of our hearts that you value our daughter so much, but you guys, she is going to have a child soon, Xia still has to go to school, and she won't be able to earn money for a while, so she should save what she can. We can't just ask our elders to help us when we don't have enough money. If that were the case, we wouldn't be able to live comfortably. You said we can only live on 5 yuan. If we have to live on 50 yuan, how can we feel in our hearts? Feeling at ease, right? There is a black thread in early summer. What is the difference between my father's rhetoric and my mother's rhetoric? However, the longer we live together, the more I realize that my father is more experienced in dealing with people." Zhou Mikang nodded. "Okay, that's it this time. From now on, I will listen to my father and mother." Then he added, "Besides, if there is no one to take care of me this time, my grandparents and parents can't rest assured either." When the conversation came to this point, it would be difficult for the couple if they didn't agree. Lin Baohe and Zhao Yulan looked at each other and agreed in unison. In fact, they also knew in their hearts that it was impossible for the Zhou family to leave their family here. Moreover, as they were pregnant with twins, they had to pay attention to everything, but they always had to show an attitude. Zhou Mikang understands the couple's thoughts and does not expose them. It is useless to talk too much about some things. In other words, they are still worried like this, which shows that he has not done enough to make them completely trust him. I believe that one day, they will accept all he has to offer calmly. Wang Zhongliang and Qin Yingfen had already prepared the dishes. The couple started working together. In about a quarter of an hour, lunch was served on the table. It included 2 meat dishes, 2 vegetarian dishes, 4 dishes, and 1 soup. The staple food was rice and steamed buns. It was simple but hearty. Chu Xia ate a big bowl of rice with vegetables and leaned back comfortably. "Uncle Wang, Aunt Qin, the food you cook is so delicious. If I eat like this every day, I will become as fat as a pig." The couple, who had been obviously nervous, finally relaxed, but felt a little embarrassed by the praise. They smiled innocently and didn't know what to say. In an instant, Lin Baohe and Zhao Yulan fell in love with these two people. They themselves had simple personalities, so naturally they also liked people with simple personalities the most. Anyway, at this moment, they classified the couple into the same kind as themselves. And the conversation became obviously warmer. After dinner, everyone went back to their rooms to rest, and Zhou Mikang explained the origins of Uncle Wang and Aunt Qin to Chu Xia. The ancestors of Uncle Wang's family were royal chefs. Although the family fell into decline later, the skills were passed down. After Aunt Chin married Uncle Wang, the two of them thought of opening a small restaurant together, but ended up being cut off from the tail of capitalism. They only have one son, Wang Fengtao, who is very good at studies. However, due to family background, he was sent home in the second grade of junior high school. For a family like theirs, it is basically impossible for them to make a comeback. They have to go to school and work in the army. Either way will get stuck. Wang Fengtao is quite good looking, about 1.8 meters tall. There is a female classmate in the class named Zhang Rong who has always liked him. The female classmate's father is the head of a small department and has some power in her hands. Zhang Rong found Wang Fengtao and said that if he was willing to be good to her, she could ask his father to arrange for Wang Fengtao's parents to work in the fertilizer factory, and she could also let him sit in an office in the department where his father worked. From the perspective of ordinary people, this is a great thing that falls in the sky, and they can just agree quickly, but Wang Fengtao made a different choice from everyone else. The reason is that when Zhang Rong told him all this, she had a completely condescending attitude. It was obvious that she was not looking for him because of his appearance, and secondly because of his appearance. It is better for her to listen to her all her life. To put it bluntly, what she is looking for is not a husband, but a puppet. This is something Wang Fengtao cannot accept. Although he really wanted to make his family's life better and his parents not to live so happily, he couldn't accept this kind of exchange, so he simply refused. Zhang Rong did not expect this result. She thought that if she could find Wang Fengtao under her conditions, he would only be grateful for his bad luck and could never say no. Angry, she threatened Wang Fengtao or agree to be with her. Well, either, just wait for the whole family to pack up and leave the capital. Wang Fengtao's answer was that he would neither be nice to her nor pack up and leave the capital. Then, he ran to the recruitment office, dodged all the sentry posts, and found Zhou Mikang. He told Zhou Mikang about his situation. He said that he wanted to be a soldier and wanted to defend the country. He said that he had to be a soldier. Only then could his parents stand upright and live a good life. Zhou Mikang asked him at that time, if you don't have enough conditions, why should you become a soldier if you want to? His answer was that his hard conditions were absolutely enough, and he never mentioned anything else. If he had met anyone else, Wang Fengtao would not have been hired, but he was lucky enough to meet Zhou Mikang, so he successfully became Zhou Mikang's subordinate. The reason why Zhou Mikang accepted him was not because of his kindness as a woman, but because he saw the qualities he wanted in him. He was stubborn, brave, persistent, and knew how to take the initiative, especially the latter one, which many people did not possess. Are you a little partial? Chu Xia looked at Zhou Mikang with a smile. You accepted him in the first place because his father was an imperial chef. Zhou Mikang had a dark line on his face. He was already my soldier 3 years ago. I don't even know where you are, so how could you have thought of this? Rolling his eyes, Chu Xia continued to criticize. According to your description, if you ask Uncle Wang and Aunt Chin to come over, Wang Fengtao will feel uncomfortable, right? This is a matter of serving others. He is not as old-fashioned as you think. Moreover, the fact that they eat well is only one aspect. The most important thing is that their house is about to collapse. Zhou Mikang stared at his young wife speechlessly. Understood. I understand, I understand. Chu Xia nodded repeatedly. I really can't tell you that you are so careful. I give you a thumbs up. Zhou Mikang. To be continued. Domain name of this book, please tell each other to promote it. Thank you. Use the Ctrl+D shortcut key to bookmark it. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 783. Please remember the website address of this website. Please recommend promotion introduction to your QQ group Weibo/WeChat forum post bar. Second update is coming. It was already 2 o'clock in the afternoon when Chu Xia woke up. When Chu Xia came out of the bedroom, she saw Lin Wenbin and Lin Wenjie sitting in the living room with Zhao Yulan and Lin Baohe, chatting animatedly. Seeing her, Lin Wenjie greeted her with a smile. Are you awake? When did the eldest brother and the third brother come? Chu Xia lazily sat next to Zhao Yulan, leaning half of her body on Zhao Yulan's body, her head drooped and she looked listless. Feeling tired, Lin Wenbin looked at her and asked worriedly. Yet Chu Xia grimaced, and I'm tired. Lin Wenbin frowned. Who put you in trouble? Who else besides you? Chu Xia glared at him dissatisfied. You can avoid me if you can. I thought you would flee to Sidia as soon as I came to the capital, huh? Brother, what you did is unethical. Lin Wenjie deliberately sat farther away from Lin Wenbin. I caused trouble and left it to my sister to solve. Is it a man's fault? What trouble did I get into? Lin Wenbin said with a black line. Can you two please stop giving me any trouble? Where is Zhou Mikang? Chu Xia ignored him and looked at Zhao Yulan and asked. I went to see Mr. Wang. I saw that you were sleeping soundly, so I didn't call you to get up. Xia, Xiaomi has been busy all day long. She is always thinking about you. Don't talk back to him in the future. Why did I talk back to him? Chu Xia looked innocent. Mom, you mean, I have to agree to whatever he says? Then I won't be a yes man. You. Zhao Yulan looked helpless. You know how you are doing, and don't say anything else. Why did you just go along with him when he drove here? He said one sentence and you have 10 sentences to wait for. Look at Xiaomi's attitude towards others. See what it's like to you, bullying him like this. There will come a time when he can't bear you, and then it will be too late to regret it. Lin Wenbin answered with a smile. Third aunt, don't worry about this. For Zhou Mikang, he would not feel comfortable if Chu Xia went with him in everything. It is because of our Xia's character that there are 5 types of confusion and 3 types of confusion. Do you have the right to speak? Chu Xia glared at him. Did I let you speak? Early summer. I was wrong. Why don't I admit my mistake? Lin Wenbin clasped his hands together and begged for mercy. I'm really not avoiding you, it's just that I don't know how to face you anyway. If you are celebrating the Chinese New Year and want to marry her, do you have to go to her house to see her parents? But I don't know if I can get together with her in the end, so I might as well take it slow first. I've been thinking about it these days. I can't be bitten by a snake. I have been afraid of well ropes for 10 years, but Yuan Hui has a pretty good personality. I am willing to give her a try. I will go back to Sidia the day after tomorrow. I will tell her my decision myself. If after getting along, each other is what the other person sees, then we will settle it as soon as possible so that the elders can rest assured. Lin Wenjie quickly testified for his eldest brother. Early summer. What the eldest brother said is true. I'll beat you away. He kept shutting himself in the room to reflect. In the end, he also told his elders about the results of his reflection. My parents are very happy now. Oh, are you really thinking about it? Chu Xia curled her lips at Lin Wenbin. I usually look like a man, but I am not a man in this matter. To be honest, brother, even if you don't look down on the second brother, I really think that what you have done in this matter is not as manly as the second brother. Sister, isn't this good? Lin Wenbin looked hurt. I'm always looking out for you. Now when you talk about me like this, is this how my sister should behave? Of course I know that my eldest brother loves me the most, but these are 2 different things. Chu Xia looked at Lin Wenbin seriously. The happiness that my eldest brother lives, and my sister-in-law loves me together, is what I want. And brother, emotional matters really have to be cut off as soon as possible. Whether you like it or not, don't procrastinate, lest you hurt yourself and others one day. That way Mian went to see Sister Yuan Hui and exaggerated your past relationship. Fortunately, Sister Yuan Hui is not a soft-eared person. Otherwise, she went to demonstrate and you don't show up. The relationship really ended there. Wei Mian went to see Yuan Hui. Lin Wenbin frowned. When did it happen? Just a few days ago. Sister Yuan Hui didn't take her words to heart at all. She also said that she wants to know your version of this matter more, and she also believes in your version. Lin Wenjia looked at Lin Wenbin seriously. Brother, to put it this way, Yuan Hui is still very angry, so you really need to catch her. It's better not to find this wife, she's really going to have a hard time. Where did you get this experience? Lin Wenbin glanced at him sideways. According to my observation, Fang Jingzi is not a woman with a weak heart. Is it possible that you have other ideas? Am I that kind of person? Lin Wenjia rolled his eyes. Are you my brother when you slander me like this? I saw this fact from Xiao Min's sister. Brother, do you remember that after you and Wei Mian broke up, Xiao Hua wanted to marry you? If Wei Mian hadn't been so heartbroken by what she did, would she have been considered at that time? Xiao Hua is prettier than Xiao Min, and many people in the courtyard have a favorable impression of her. Lin Wenjia looked at Chu Xia's family and emphasized the reason for his speculation. Stop guessing there. How many times have I told you that I'm not looking for you, not because of Wei Mian, but because I haven't met the right one? After a pause, Lin Wenbin added, if we have to make peace, it's okay to have a relationship with her. If it weren't for having gotten along with her, I wouldn't insist on finding someone with compatible personalities. As for Xiao Hua, whether it was before Wei Mian or after Wei Mian, it was impossible for me to be with her. I have known her pettiness and utilitarianism since I was a child. How are fourth brother and Xiao Min doing now? Chu Xia asked. It's settled for the time being. Xiao Min also officially rejected Huang Xinjia, but... Lin Wenjia raised his eyebrows. Xiao Hua shouldn't be able to help them so easily. It doesn't matter whether she succeeds or not, as long as Xiao Min is determined. As he spoke, Lin Wenbin couldn't help but sigh. If possible, I really don't want the fourth child and Xiao Min to go together. Needless to say, Xiao Hua's character is also tolerable. She is an elder and cannot hide even if she wants to. If she gets married in the future, she will live a good life as the fourth child. Chu Xia shrank her neck unconsciously. It seems that in the future, my brothers will all get married, so I should try to visit as little as possible. Lin Wenbin snorted coldly. If you think so, I will make trouble for Weng Xiu and Xiao Min later. You can't mess with Huang about the second brother's matter, and it's even less possible for the fourth brother's matter. Chu Xia is not worried about this at all. Xiao Min's character is not easily influenced by others, and Lin Wenbin is not that kind of person either. Unable to argue with his little cousin, Lin Wenbin changed the subject. Third uncle and three aunt, let's go home for dinner tonight. Grandpa and Grandma asked us to come here just to pick up third uncle and his family. Lin Bao he refused and said, we won't go there today. Wait a few days until everything is settled here. We will definitely go over to see my uncle and auntie. Third uncle, you're not far away. I'll just send you back after dinner, Lin Wenbin advised. If you don't go over, your grandparents will definitely come here tomorrow. Lin Bao he sighed. Wenbin, there is really no need to go there. You go back and tell your grandparents that we are not going there, not because we don't regard it as our home. Precisely because we feel that we are a family, we don't need to be so polite. We will be here for a long time in the future. It is very easy to meet each other, and it will not take more than a day and a half. Okay, then I'll call Grandpa and tell him that I'll stay here for dinner too. Lin Wenbin looked at Lin Wenjia. What about you? Are you staying or going back? Of course I will stay. Lin Wenjia looked dissatisfied. Brother, I am also the nephew of my third uncle and my third aunt. Is it too much to ask me this? Didn't you make an appointment to meet Fang Jingzi tonight? Lin Wenbin looked at him speechlessly. I'm obviously thinking about you, and yet I asked you to pick out a bunch of reasons. You're really good at it? That's right. Lin Wenjie slapped his forehead fiercely and looked at Lin Baohe and Zhao Yulan inquiringly. Third uncle and third aunt, can I ask Jingzi to come over and have dinner with us? Okay, it's lively even if there are many people. This kid, what else do you have to ask? After Zhao Yulan finished speaking, her expression paused slightly and then returned to her natural state. Chu Xia sat next to Zhao Yulan, and saw the subtle changes in her mother's expression. She couldn't help but sigh secretly. She was still too weak, making her father and mother always feel like they were dependent on others. However, no matter how hard she worked, she would still be able to. It is impossible to compare with the Zhou family. Or, after the policy is relaxed in a few years, she can help her parents start some business. Well, this is a way. The more she thinks about it, the more Chu Xia thinks it is a good idea. Although my father and mother are a bit too down-to-earth, who says that they are down-to-earth? Isn't it enough to actually do business? What are you thinking about? Zhao Yulan poked her daughter. Your brother is asking you something. Ah, Chu Xia looked at Lin Wenbin and Lin Wenjie blankly. What's the matter? Lin Wenjie, who was holding the phone, looked embarrassed. Jingzi said that her sister wants to bring someone over to meet you. Oh. Chu Xia looked stunned. Bring her here. If possible, let her stay at night. I will report to school with her tomorrow. Half an hour later, Fang Jingzi and Fang Jing'ai came in with a delicate girl. After the two sides exchanged greetings, Fang Jing'ai took the girl and introduced her to Chuxia. Chuxia, she is the one I told you last time. Li Xinlai. Chu Xia has a black line. Miss, you made an introduction as soon as you entered the door. We have already said hello. Does it feel weird to introduce you like this again? To be continued. Domain name of this book, please tell each other to promote it. Thank you. Use the Ctrl+D shortcut key to bookmark it. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 784. Regarding the Zhongcheng mayor's pornographic photos incident that was circulated on the internet, on the third day after the incident, the police specifically accepted interviews with major news media on the matter and officially clarified that it was purely false at this time and that the video was synthesized by computer editing. In addition, the poorly done PS was deliberately framed by someone. Moreover, the police also specifically asked the hotel staff that day. There was indeed something about Su Yicheng carrying Ling Ran back to the hotel, but it was only because Ling Ran was injured that day and the wound on her forehead was still bandaged. Someone else confirmed Su Yicheng came down in less than a minute, and then drove away directly. Regarding this, there was surveillance in the community where Su Yicheng lived, and the time on it was consistent with the time mentioned by the waiter. Therefore, a series of investigation results show that Su Yicheng did nothing more than send the injured Ling Ran back to the hotel as a friend that day. As for the subsequent pornographic photos scandal on the internet, it was completely maliciously spread rumors and slander. Regarding this person who maliciously spread rumors and slander, the police have also given a clear attitude. They will never tolerate it and will investigate to the end. In addition, the media has been asking about the rape case that occurred on Park Road in the early morning of the 13th. After investigation, it is indeed not related to Su Yicheng. In addition, the police are also fully investigating the real suspect. I believe they will give everyone an explanation soon. And Ran put down the newspaper in his hand, then turned around and asked Su Yicheng, who was bored to the point of flipping through a classic, what rape case is the newspaper talking about? Su Yicheng didn't look up and just replied calmly, it's nothing, it's just a misunderstanding. He didn't say anything, and Ayn Rand didn't ask any more questions. She stood up and walked towards him. Seeing her coming, Su Yicheng put down the book in his hand, smiled lightly at her and opened his hand. Enran was not polite and walked forward and sat on his lap naturally, holding his arms around his neck and resting her head on his shoulder. "Are you sleepy?" Su Yicheng asked softly in her ear. She was woken up by the wake-up call in the morning. During these few days in the compound, she was woken up by the wake-up call almost every day, and Enran was the kind of person who was woken up by the wake-up call. It is difficult for someone to fall back asleep after waking up, so he wakes up with the wake-up call every day. There is nothing wrong with him. When he lived in the compound, he would wake up with the wake-up call and then go out with his father and grandfather. Later, after moving out, he still had the same problem. After developing a habit, the biological clock will automatically wake him up at that time every day, then go out for a morning exercise and then come back. After getting married, there were times because I was afraid of waking Enran, so I stayed with her for a while. It's just that Enran is pregnant now, and pregnant women always need more sleep. Now that she has to get up early every day because of this wake-up call, she is seriously lacking in sleep. Speaking of being sleepy, he was really a bit sleepy. Enran yawned delicately, and suddenly remembered that he went to the police station yesterday to identify the photo, and asked casually, "How did you recognize the photo yesterday?" In fact, it's not much different from what I expected. He didn't recognize the suspect's head that the computer puzzled out, and he had no impression of it. But sometimes there really are such coincidences, and it really proves the old saying, "The Skynet is full of omissions, but no omissions are missed." This saying really makes sense. He did not recognize the suspect, but a colleague from the police station had gone out to handle the case and had just returned. He poured himself some water and drank it. He was planning to calm down before going out to do the work at hand, but that was all. Coincidentally, when I passed by the computer, I accidentally recognized the puzzle picture on the computer. After thinking for a long time, I determined that it was very similar to the criminal suspect in a case I had handled before. I also found out at that moment. According to the original case information, the photo above is indeed 80% similar to the puzzle piece on the computer. After checking the files, it turned out that this person was a computer teller. He had opened a computer repair shop at home before. He stole and downloaded other people's privacy while repairing the computer. He was so bad that he used the privacy to blackmail the victim. In the end, someone was unwilling to be blackmailed for a long time, and finally called the police directly, for which the man paid the price of 2 years in prison, and was just released from prison 6 months ago. With this important clue, although the man did not return home after serving his sentence, the direction of the overall investigation has been determined, and the incident has slowly become clearer. In addition, the police also stepped forward regarding Ling Ran's side. After questioning, her words were a little shaky, and she refuted her statement several times. It was obvious that there was something wrong with her confession. However, since there was no conclusive evidence yet, the police still waited to see what happened and did not act rashly. Su Yicheng briefly explained the situation to Enran. After he finished speaking, he realized that the person in his arms had fallen asleep unknowingly while he was talking. He was resting his head on his shoulder and closing his eyes tightly. The mouth was slightly open, making a faint snoring sound, which looked particularly cute. Su Yicheng shook his head with a smile, and carefully carried her back to the bed. It seemed that the warmth from his body was gone instantly. Enran was still a little uncomfortable. He rubbed his head against the pillow, murmured a few words in his sleep, and finally had a steady sleep. "Go to sleep." Su Yicheng covered her with a quilt and put the books on the desk on the bookshelf. Then he opened the door and saw Qin Yun just raising her hand to knock on the door. Wei Wei was stunned and asked, "Mom, do you have anything to do with me?" Qin Yun nodded and said, "Secretary Zhang is here. He is in the living room. He said he wanted to talk to you." Hearing this, Su Yicheng nodded. Now that the matter has come to an end, the municipal committee's decision is about to come down. He is not too surprised that Secretary Zhang will come to him. Qin Yun looked into the room and asked, "Is Ran asleep?" Su Yicheng nodded, stretched out his hand and gently closed the door. As he walked towards the living room with his mother, he said, "Mom, I'm going to take Ran back tonight. She couldn't sleep well due to the reveille here." Qin Yun thought for a moment, and she actually knew that Ran had not slept well. She had lived in the compound for decades and had long been accustomed to the sound of this whistle. Sometimes she could even directly regard it as a lullaby. Yes, she sleeps with her, but Ran has only been here for a few days, so naturally she is not used to it. In addition, she is still pregnant with the child, which is the time when she feels sleepy. If she cannot sleep well every day, it will not be a problem in the long run. After thinking for a while, he finally nodded and said, "Well, okay, but you have to come back once every week to let us know that Ran is fine." Although he knew that letting Ran stay would make it easier for him to take care of her nearby, but for the sake of her two fat grandsons, maybe it would be better for her to follow Cheng back to the city. Moreover, Ran's parents' family in the city also lives close by, so Lin Xiaofen can visit from time to time to take care of her. In addition, she sees Cheng the Mrs. Zhang whom I invited is also a good person. She is a person who knows how to take care of others. Su Yicheng smiled and nodded, "No problem." When they arrived at the living room, Secretary Zhang was sitting on the sofa, thinking about something, with tea in his hand. Even Su Yicheng didn't notice when he came over. Su Yicheng sat down in front of him and said to bring him back to his senses, "Secretary Zhang." Secretary Zhang finally came back to his senses, looked at him in front of him, smiled lightly, "Yuchen." Su Yicheng nodded with a slight smile and said, "Does Secretary Zhang come to me to talk about the city's punishment of me?" Secretary Zhang glanced at him, always knowing that he was smart and could understand everything. Sure enough, he had already guessed the purpose of his visit when he came to the door. Looking at him, he couldn't help but sigh softly, shook his head and said, "Yuchen, when did we become so outspoken? This is not in the municipal party committee, so don't call me secretary, just call me the same as before. Uncle Zhang." Su Yicheng only smiled and nodded. Seeing this, Secretary Zhang asked jokingly, "Yuchen, are you complaining that I asked you to put down what you were doing temporarily?" Su Yicheng shook his head and said, "No, I just thought that Uncle Zhang came to me today to talk about work matters, so I thought it would be more appropriate to call you secretary. Whatever is appropriate or not, if you call me Uncle Zhang, will I think of the friendship between our two families and ignore public and private matters?" Secretary Zhang said with some displeasure. Su Yicheng smiled, nodded, and called, "Uncle Zhang." Secretary Zhang nodded with satisfaction, then picked up the teacup and took a sip of tea. He looked at Su Yicheng and said with some emotion, after drinking it, "I still like your Dongbao. It's fragrant and strong. You think I'm like this? I didn't even check what I bought, so why do I always feel that the taste is so different from your old Su's?" Su Yicheng chuckled and said, "Uncle Zhang really asked the wrong person. The tea in this house was brought back by that girl Yi Xiao. Her shop has long-term cooperation with those tea suppliers. Maybe it's because of this, so this tea is probably more authentic and better than the ones on the market." Secretary Zhang nodded and muttered, "I really have to go and fawn over that girl Yu Jiao someday and ask her to bring me a few bags of tea like this someday." Su Yicheng just smiled and didn't say much about it. Secretary Zhang took another sip of tea, and when he looked at Su Yicheng, his eyes became more helpless. He wanted to change the subject, but in the end he had to talk about this, because the purpose of coming here today was to talk to him about this matter in the municipal party committee. He has watched him grow up all the way to this decision. He has no children, so he really treats him as his own son. In fact, He personally thinks that the decision to handle his matter this time is quite heavy. But there is no other way. Who knows that this is a sensitive period? This is what the Discipline Inspection Commission is arresting now, but unfortunately it happened to him. In fact, he came today just to give him a vaccination, so that he had better have an idea in his mind, so that when he really made the decision, there wouldn't be too many surprises. But if he really asked him to say it like this, he really couldn't say it. Su Yicheng can probably guess what he wants to say. In fact, he also knows that now is the time to strictly enforce party style and party discipline. The last incident involving Ling Chuanzhang, Tong Wenhai and others has attracted serious attention from the Provincial Party Committee, so it can be said that these are extraordinary times. Seeing that he was in a bit of a dilemma, Su Yicheng didn't pay much attention and simply said, "Uncle Zhang, just tell me if you have anything to say. I have a good mental endurance." Secretary Zhang was really a little amused by his statement. He shook his head and finally said, "Chang, the results of the handling of your matter have been handed down and will be made publicly in 2 days. Punishment." Su Yicheng said nothing, still looking at him with a smile on his face, listening to him continue what he had not finished. Secretary Zhang glanced at him, and then continued with a long sigh, "The Municipal Party Committee has decided to record demerits, and may also remove your current position as deputy mayor. Of course, the case of the Science and Technology City you are currently holding may also be transferred to others are responsible. The specific appointment of the transfer has not been officially announced, but the situation is not optimistic. I am telling you to make a mental preparation first. The situation is just like this, so you just have to have a base." Su Yicheng nodded, as if he was not too surprised by such a reception. The smile on his face remained as he looked at Secretary Zhang and said, "Uncle Zhang, thank you for coming all the way to inform me. I understand." Secretary Zhang shook his head and just said, "Don't complain about this. You have really fallen in love with the Ling family girl this time. Regardless of whether the videos and photos on the internet are true or false, your image is completely ruined by her. It's ruined. You also know how powerful public opinion is now, and we have to take into account the voice of the masses. But don't worry too much. You are still young and have a long career in the future. Moreover, your ability is good, so you are not afraid of I can't achieve results in other aspects." Su Yicheng nodded and just said, "Well, I know, I have thought about this result, but it doesn't matter. The cases in Science and Technology City are really busy during this period, and it is a bit dark. Even if you want to take some time to work on it, is very difficult to spend time with Ran at home, but now it is easier. With less work, there is more time. Ran is pregnant now and her belly is getting bigger day by day. If I have free time, I can spend more time with her." Hearing this, Secretary Zhang nodded and felt relieved that he thought so. He was indeed of good quality. Some people might not be able to recover when they encounter such a thing. He looked at him and said with a smile, "You are such a good person, you should learn a lesson this time. Be more careful in everything in the future and don't take advantage of others. Although the price is a bit high, you are still young and you can afford the tuition, right?" Su Yicheng also laughed, nodded frequently, and said, "Yes, Uncle Zhang is right." Qin Yun came out of the room, looked at Secretary Zhang with a smile and said, "Old Zhang, stay for dinner at noon. I made your favorite steamed sea bass today. When Lao Su comes back at noon, you two can have a few more drinks. Lao Su was telling me a few days ago that I haven't seen you for a long time." Secretary Zhang also laughed. He raised his hand and looked at the time. Unknowingly, it was almost noon. He smiled and said to Qin Yun, "It's really not possible at noon. Comrade Fang Zhe at home told me yesterday that this is the time it hurts a little. I have to accompany her to the hospital for a good checkup when I get back at noon. Alas, you said that this person is no longer useful when she is old. The number of problems is increasing all of a sudden. A person who is usually in good health can't even breathe now. It can make you sick. Is that okay? Qin Yun asked with some concern, walking towards him as she spoke. Let's go check it out at noon. Who knows? Without checking it, Secretary Zhang stood up, took the briefcase lying beside him, and said with a smile, okay, I won't eat the sea bass today. After eating, I will come to your old suit to play chess next time. Last time, I didn't even finish the chess game. Qin Yun nodded repeatedly and said, ask your old man to come to my place when he is free. It's so boring to be alone at home. Even if you are not sick, you will get sick from boredom. Sure, I'll go back and tell her. Secretary Zhang agreed with a smile. Su Yicheng sent him out, and when he came back to the living room, Enran had already come out of the room wiping his eyes in confusion. Looking at the time, I didn't even sleep for half an hour. He stepped forward and touched her face with some pity. She looked a little thinner in recent days, perhaps due to poor sleep. He frowned slightly and asked, why don't you sleep more? Enran smiled coquettishly at him, shook her head and said, wake up. After looking at the time, lunch would have to wait for a while, so he took her hand and went out. Let's go out for a walk. Enran nodded and let him hold her hand and go out. However, when she walked to the door, she happened to meet Su Yujiao, who came back with an angry look on her face. She didn't know who was so angry with him. She looked angry when she saw Su Yuchen and Su Yujiao. Enran just shouted in a bad tone, and then ran to his room with a gloomy face. What happened? Enran looked at Su Yicheng with some doubts. In fact, not long after Yijiao was taken away by Ye Ziwen yesterday, the man answered the phone and left without saying anything. However, because he knew that Yijiao was taken away by Ziwen, the Su family didn't worry about when taking her away, and they didn't call her to ask anything. Since she didn't come back, she probably lived in the city. Su Yicheng shrugged and shook his head, indicating that he didn't know. But before the two of them could turn around, Ye Zi suddenly ran over from outside like a warm breeze. When he saw Su Yicheng, with a big smile on his face, he grabbed him and asked, Cheng, is Mother Su here? I'm here to find her, propose marriage. Hearing this, both Enran and Su Yicheng's eyes widened. This development must be too fast. And looking at Yijiao's appearance just now, she couldn't feel the joy of being engaged, but more of anger. Unable to wait for Su Yicheng's answer, Ye Ziwen ignored him and just said, I'll go in and find Mother Su myself. Then he ran towards the house. Enran and Su Yicheng looked at each other, and then smiled at the same time. While the two were looking at each other and smiling, Enran's cell phone rang at this moment. It was Gu Hengwen's call. He took the phone and answered it. Hi, Dad. Gu Hengwen on the other end of the phone said anxiously, Enran, your mother is in the hospital. Digression. In tears, asking for votes. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 785. Second update, all the code will be uploaded by Xiaohiwu. Dear friends, can you please fix it? After Fang Jingzi explained, Li Xinlai's face turned even redder, but Fang Jingzi was not sure, that's what she thought, and she even felt a little unhappy in her heart. Unexpectedly, she turned out to be a villain. Now she really wants to find a crack in the ground to crawl in. Hey, people are so kind-hearted, what is going on with her? Fang Jingyi took Li Xinlai's arm and shook it. Okay, it's me and my sister who didn't do it right. Don't be embarrassed. Thinking about it now, if it were me, I would think the same way. Moreover, if it were me, I must have been furious at that time. Chu Xia also understood the misunderstanding between the few people. She always thought that the Fang sisters had explained the situation clearly, but unexpectedly, they were confused. She always thought it was strange that the Fang sisters were so eager to introduce Li Xinlai to her. Now she finally understood that they had thought of her worries in advance. It was no wonder that Lin Wenjie was so fond of Fang Jingzi. After the words were said, the knot in Li Xinlai's heart was completely opened. When she started talking again, she became obviously more intimate and casual. Chu Xia laughed and joked at her, no wonder I felt weird at that time. It turns out that Xinlai was talking to her. I showed my kindness, but at the same time, he was scolding me in his heart. No, no, Li Xinlai waved her hands repeatedly, I just wanted to do my best and not let Sister Jingzi and Sister Jing'ai down. I definitely didn't scold you. If I lied, I wouldn't be able to graduate. Are you taking this too seriously? Chu Xia said with a black line, can't you tell I'm joking with you? I can see it, but I still have to explain it. Li Xinlai looked at Chu Xia seriously, what if it's not really a joke, wouldn't it be another misunderstanding? Chu Xia smiled helplessly, well, it is absolutely the right choice for you to enter the medical university. With your caution and seriousness, you will definitely be a qualified medical worker. When we get to know each other better, I won't be so rigid. Li Xinlai smiled sheepishly, I also think I'm boring like this, but I can't change it for a while. I quite like your character. Chu Xia looked at her sincerely, I believe we will become good friends. Then she looked at Fang Jing and Zi. Fang Jing'ai, third sister-in-law, Sister Jing'ai, thank you. Introduce Xinlai to me in advance. Fang Jingzi smiled and said, look, you asked others to be polite, but when it was your turn, you became polite. Yes, this is obviously to distance us. Fang Jing'ai looked disappointed, sister, we are too selfish. From now on, we should not treat ourselves as outsiders. Say whatever you want, anyway, you understand what I mean. Chu Xia looked at the two of them shamelessly, you have the nerve to bully a pregnant woman, so just continue. Fang Jingzi. Fang Jing'ai. Well, they really learned a lot about such a rogue person, but it seemed to make them like her even more. They are both young people. The initial restraint is gone and they get along more easily. Chu Xia simply asked the question in her heart, third sister-in-law, Sister Jing'ai, if you bring Xinlai out like this, won't her sister say anything? She also knew about Fang Jingguan and Li Xinlan, so she asked this question. Fang Jing'ai spread her hands, when I passed by, Li Xinlan probably thought I was looking for her, and deliberately glanced at me and looked away. I guess after we left, she would be furious to death. Li Xinlai sighed, if she wants to be angry, be angry. Anyway, she was spoiled by my mother. Sister Jingzi, Sister Jing'ai, I don't speak to you because you help me. If I really marry her like that, a person becomes a daughter-in-law. Then your family will just wait for the chicken to fly. You all know how my mother treats my father. My sister is definitely the replica of my mother, and even worse. My father is not that cowardly at first. He just doesn't want to have noisy things at home every day, so he can't bear it. After he got used to it, he seemed to no longer care about my mother's temper. Sometimes I felt like I couldn't help him enough, but thinking about it carefully, he couldn't help it. Hey, so, it is the same for a man to get a wife and a woman to get married. If you find someone who is unreasonable, you will never think about it in this life. It is better to say that you don't have children. If you have children, you will suffer the consequences together with the children. Growing up, we have all heard Aunt Yao scold Uncle Li when we were young, we looked down on Uncle Li because of this. Now we understand that it is really not easy for him. Fang Jing'ai looked at Li Xinlai with some sympathy, you are the one suffering the most, but actually your sister is not affected at all. My sister looks like my mother, so my mother regards her as the younger version of herself. I look like my father, so naturally she regards me as my father's version. How can I be displeased with her? Is there any other way to say this? The black line at the end of early summer. If she was so dissatisfied, Why did Li Xinlai's mother marry Li Xinlai's father back then? Could it be that you think your life is too comfortable? Uncle Li was very good looking when he was young, and he was a skilled worker. He was liked by girls. It was Aunt Yao who actively pursued him and married Aunt Yao. Fang Jingai's explanation solved Chu Xia's confusion, and she was even more speechless. This is this era. If in future generations, such a woman will wait for divorce. At this moment, she took a closer look at Li Xinlai and found that her facial features were indeed very delicate. However, her clothes were too shabby and her hair was cut too stylelessly. People ignored her appearance. Who cut your hair? It couldn't be your mother, right? Chu Xia asked. Yeah, Li Xinlai touched her hair embarrassedly. My hair is too thick and hard, and the sharpener blade is a bit dull, so it's like this. Fang Jing'ai curled her lips. Come on, your sister's hair is also quite thick. Why didn't you see your mother cut it like this? They cut it for my sister first, and then for me. Li Xinlai drooped her head. My mother said that my sister is prettier than me, so she needs to dress up prettier and find a good husband-in-law. Let our family live a good life. There's no end to the partiality, Fang Jing'ai said angrily. My mother couldn't stand it and gave Xinlai a haircut. As a result, her mother scolded her for a long time, and she never dared to take this job again. It's a job. Well, I saw another weird thing. Chu Xia stood up and said, I'll give you a nice haircut later. You'll go to school tomorrow. You have to dress up and look energetic. Your mother can't find me, and you can't hear me scolding you. As he said this, he pulled Li Xinlai up and said, there is hot water in the bathroom. Go and wash your hair. After getting along with her for a long time, she knew that Chu Xia was not that hypocritical. Li Xinlai hesitated for a moment, then stood up and followed Chu Xia to the bathroom. Sister, do you think my decision was right now? Fang Jing'ai whispered in Fang Jing's ear. Originally, I didn't disagree. Fang Jingzi glared at her sister. I just said that it's best for them to get to know each other for a while before we sit down together. Fang Jing'ai looked disapproving. How can such an effect be so good? Anyway, we know Xinlai, and she is definitely not a malicious person. Even if Shuxia is dissatisfied with her, it doesn't matter. Sister, you are still too careful in doing things. Okay, I won't do this next time. If I hadn't pitted Xinlai, I wouldn't have agreed. Fang Jingzi sighed quietly, looking at her sister. If it weren't for Chu Xia originally coming from an ordinary family, what happened this time would definitely have happened. The Lin family was disgusted. Jing'ai, we do not have bad intentions, and the Lin family does not have any heirs. However, if some things are done without full understanding, there may be different interpretations. Just like when we asked Li Xinlai to come over, if she hadn't said it herself, wouldn't we have realized that our previous actions had caused her so many misunderstandings? It's a good thing that she has a good temper. Otherwise, if there was a quarrel at that time, we were obviously doing good things, but we were embarrassed. What would it be like? I'm sure this won't happen next time. I won't worry about it when we get to know each other here in early summer. After a pause, Fang Jing'ai said, Sister, I'm not as thoughtful as you, but I feel that sometimes it's too cautious. This will make it difficult for people to get close to you. You may not be able to hear it now, but I put my words here. One day, you will recognize what I said. Okay, why are you getting more and more wordy? Fang Jingzi glared at her sister and softened her tone. I know what you mean. As a human being, it is always right to treat others with sincerity. But you have overlooked one thing. Not everyone accepts treating others with sincerity. To be honest, the Lin family is really good, and they do not dislike our family background. However, I must tell you very seriously, if the person you want to help today is not Chu Xia, I will definitely not agree. Fang Jing'ai frowned. Sister, who showed your face? No, Fang Jingzi shook her head. you don't have to look down on me. As long as you have a slightly more distant attitude, I'll understand. I'm not stupid. Who is it? Can you tell me? Fang Jingzi patted her sister on the shoulder. You don't have to worry about it. Anyway, my father-in-law, mother-in-law, and husband have no objection to me. That's enough. Do you think I'm your sister? Fang Jingyi glared at her sister dissatisfied and turned her head to the side. Fang Jingzi wanted to persuade her sister, but felt upset, so she simply didn't say anything. Chu Xia found the towel and shampoo for Li Xinlai and returned to the hall. Seeing that the two sisters' faces were a little solemn, she looked at them curiously and joked, "Did you have a fight?" Fang Jingzi was the first to say, "Yes, I just joked her and I wasn't happy about it. She was having a little temper with me. You don't have to pay attention to her. Is Xinlai washing her hair?" This question was asked. Chu Xia had black hair. Seeing that it was inconvenient for the other party to let her know, he changed the subject wisely. My hair cutting skills are pretty good. I will definitely surprise you when you look back ours. The fastest update, no pop-ups please read. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 786. 1 update today, 2 updates tomorrow. I will follow the outline below. Thank you for the warm mooncakes. This is Xinlai. When Zhao Yulan came back from the side room, she had just finished cutting Li Xinlai's hair in early summer. Looking at the slim and beautiful girl standing in front of her, Zhao Yulan looked in disbelief. Li Xinlai's skin is very white, and her hair is very dark and thick. A refreshing and neat short haircut immediately makes people look bright. And, it's me, Li Xinlai smiled shyly. She was shocked by herself when she looked in the mirror just now. She has never thought that she could be so good looking. We both couldn't stand this comparison. Fang Jingyi took Fang Jingzi and took a step back. It's best not to stand with her in the future. The contrast is too obvious. When Fang Jingyi said this, Li Xinlai became even more embarrassed and her face turned red. I'm not as good looking as you. If you laugh at me again, I will crawl into the cracks of the ground. I'm not laughing at you, Xinlai. I have watched you grow up. I know you are not ugly, but I never thought you were so beautiful. Fang Jingyi clicked her tongue twice and looked at Chu Xia. I really didn't expect you. You also have such skills and vision, otherwise. She smiled ingratiatingly. Can you help me clean it up too? Chu Xia spread her hands indifferently. As long as you are willing to give up these 2 big braids, I am just doing it anyway. Your braids are not something you can grow in a year or 2. I suggest you think about it carefully. The Fang sisters all have excellent hair, which is black, shiny, and very thick. They have long braids that reach below the shoulders. In this era, that is also a very popular hairstyle, so they are reminded again and again in early summer. As expected, when she said this, Fang Jingyi hesitated. Fang Jingzi laughed. Chu Xia is right. It's easier to cut hair than to keep it. Qin Tao can't put it down with your 2 big braids. It's best to discuss it with him before deciding what to do. After being exposed by her sister, Fang Jingyi's face turned red, and she sat on the chair angrily. I cut it off, what's there to think about? It's none of his business if my hair grows on my head. Chu Xia, help me cut it. You can decide how to cut it to look good. No, Chu Xia shook her head and refused. Originally, she was reluctant to take action against this black hair, but now after listening to Fang Jingzi's words, it was even more impossible for her to do so. Fang Jingyi was so embarrassed and confused now. She would not follow her nonsense. Sister Chuxia, please cut it for me. I really like Xinlai's hairstyle. Let me enjoy it first. You can keep your long hair longer. Don't listen to my sister. She just said that on purpose to make you make fun of me. Chin Tao doesn't care whether I have long or short hair. Let me help you cut your bangs. Helpless, Chu Xia had to choose a compromise. She also saw that Fang Jing'ai was a very face-conscious person. If she didn't change her hairstyle, she might be embarrassed to meet her in the future. What's so good about just cutting off the bangs? Just cut them all off, Fang Jing'ai still insisted, but Fang Jingzi quickly apologized. I was just teasing you, why do you take it seriously? It has nothing to do with Chin Tao whether to cut it or not. He really thinks it is a pity to keep it so long and cut it. Just listen to Chu Xia and cut your bangs. If you are really not satisfied, just cut them all off, okay? My sister gave me the steps, so of course I had to go down immediately. Fang Jing'ai nodded obediently. Okay, just cut the bangs. Fang Jingzi secretly breathed a sigh of relief. She regretted what she said before. She was used to having trouble with her sister at home, so the words came out smoothly. After saying it, she realized how big a mistake she had made. With her sister's face-loving temper, how could she? What kind of scruples would you care about? However, this also shows that she does not regard Chu Xia and Xin Li as outsiders. Otherwise, how could she be careless? Thinking of this, the corners of Fang Jing'ai's lips curled up unconsciously. Originally, she had been worried about marrying into the Lin family. What if her relationship with her husband's family was not good, but now it seemed that that was basically impossible. Her parents-in-law, mother-in-law, and her family are all very good-natured. Her second uncle and second aunt are not too enthusiastic about her, so she doesn't mind. She doesn't live with them anyway. The only thing she worries about is the sudden appearance of this new sister-in-law. Lin Wenjia mentioned this sister-in-law more than once and emphasized her important position in the Lin family. This made her always worry that her sister-in-law would not get along well. Now it seemed that she was really worried. It's no wonder that the Lin family is so close to the sister-in-law. Who wouldn't like such a good personality, good looks, and good talent? Sister, are you stunned? After being poked by her sister, Fang Jingzi was brought back from her random thoughts. The next second, she quickly rushed to the mirror and sat down. In early summer, I want to cut my bangs too. Her sister's attitude was the best answer. Fang Jing'ai raised her eyebrows proudly. Don't cut it if you can. I was sarcastic just now, but now I'm sitting on it myself. You can't be so unkind. When did I become sarcastic? I really think Xinlai's hair is beautiful, and I really can't bear to part with her long hair. Now that I don't have to cut my hair short and can become more beautiful, why don't I make myself more beautiful? Fang Jing gave her sister a purple look. Are you afraid that I will steal your limelight if I become beautiful? Fang Jing Is this my biological sister? Zhao Yulan had been sitting there smiling and watching the juniors tossing around, the pride in her eyebrows undisguised. She was happiest when her daughter could help others and be liked by others. The hairstyles of this era were basically cabbage haircuts. For older people, the bangs were cut short at the base of the ears and tucked behind the ears with small clips, leaving no bangs on the forehead. Long hair is usually tied into two braids, some with thin and short bangs, and some with no bangs at all. Anyway, no matter which one, it will not modify the face shape. Therefore, the layered oblique bangs that were cut for the sisters in early summer, which were extremely common in later generations, would definitely have a stunning effect in this era. A man relies on his clothes and a horse relies on his saddle. However, if there is no good-looking hairstyle, no matter how good the clothes are, they cannot set off the temperament. The three girls now seemed to be different people, more fashionable and good-looking. After helping the three people arrange their hair, Chu Xia ran to the side hall in a gust of wind, pulling Lin Wenbin and Lin Wenjia. Let's go and see if you can still recognize those three beauties. Luckily for Lin Wenbin, All the girls in the Zhou family had their hair styled by Chuxia, so there was nothing strange about him. However, it was the first time for Lin Wenjie to see someone cut their hair like this. He stared at Fang Jingzi, almost glued to her. On the face, Chuxia secretly curled her lips. She just slightly improved the hairstyle of this era. If she got a pair perm now, would Lin Wenjie be fascinated to death? Little Chuxia. Chuxia, who was enjoying herself, was stunned for a moment when she heard a familiar call. When she turned around, she saw Mr. Wan standing at the door with a smile, and behind him was Zhou Mikang with a light smile on his face. "Grandpa," Chuxia quickly dropped the whittling knife in his hand and went over to it. He took Mr. Wan's arm and complained dissatisfiedly, "Grandpa promised to go back 15 years ago, but he never went back. Didn't we all lose it, forget? Haha. Being remembered is a beautiful thing." Mr. Wan smiled happily. Lin Baohe and Zhao Yulan also came up to say hello. Their eyes were full of surprises, which made Mr. Wan feel even better. "Grandpa, let me introduce to you, this is the third sister-in-law Fang Jingzi, this is the third sister-in-law's sister Fang Jing'ai, and this is their neighbor and my classmate Li Xinlai." Chuxia introduced several people one by one before getting intimate. Sitting next to Mr. Wan, "Grandpa comes here today and won't leave." "Well, I'm not leaving." Mr. Wan looked at her with a smile, "I won't leave even if I ask you to. Grandpa will stay here." Chuxia was really happy this time. She rubbed her cheek against the old man's rough palm and said, "Grandpa is all done with his business, right? It would be best for the old man to be with his parents, but if the old man doesn't have his own business, after finishing her work, she wouldn't drag the other person here without being sensible." "I'm done." Mr. Wan sighed, "Grandpa will really be alone in the future, hey?" "What's wrong?" Chuxia sat up straight and frowned, "Is Aunt Wan making trouble with you again?" "If she hadn't made such a fuss, I would have gone back a long time ago." Mr. Wan waved his hand, "Let's not talk about the unhappy things. You will start school tomorrow. Are you ready?" "Well." After nodding, Chuxia smiled sheepishly, "Actually, there is nothing to prepare. Books and other things have to be reported before they are released. All you need to do is prepare the money." "Well, where is Mr. Zhou?" "Don't worry about me." The little wife finally noticed him, and the corners of the teacher's lips curled up unconsciously. After a busy day, Wan Lao's matter was solved quickly, but the little wife didn't even look at him. She was really depressed. As for Mr. Wan, she didn't want to ask about it right now. In any case, Fang Jingzi and others were outsiders after all. Even Lin Wenbin and Lin Wenjie were outsiders in Wan Lao's eyes. How could she really say it in front of these people? Those bad things about Wanjie. However, from what I heard, I knew that Mr. Wan and Wan Yuqian were not having a good fight. The old man didn't mention it on the phone before. Thinking about it, the old man was not happy during this period. Even if the guests leave and the old man doesn't want to tell her, she won't ask. She just needs to make the old man happy. She just needs to cherish this opportunity. "Grandpa, look at the three of them, are they all very pretty? I just cut my hair, am I good?" In order to make the old man happy, Chuxia showed off her skills again. "The old man has a black line on his head." Listening to this meaning, he is clearly saying that because she has such a good-looking haircut, she looks good-looking. It has nothing to do with whether she looks good or not. To be continued. If you like this works, you are welcome to come to Novel Reading Network. To vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. Mobile phone users, please go to M to read. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 787. Li Family. When it was dinner time, Li Xinlai hadn't come back yet, so Father Li was a little worried. Although it was definitely not dangerous for his daughter to go out with the Fang sisters, He couldn't help but come back at this time, and there were 3 girls. Overthink it? Looking at his eldest daughter, who was sitting there looking at the mirror, Father Li cleared his throat. Xiaolan, go to Fang's house and ask if you know where Xiaoli and the others have gone. What do you have to ask? Li Xinlan rolled her eyes. It's not like he's such a big guy and doesn't have legs or a mouth. He'll naturally come back when it's time to come back. She is your sister. Li Xinlan interrupted her father. Does she see me as a sister in her eyes? She didn't give me a single glance when she left. Now let me beg someone to pull her down. What do you call asking for help? You and Jingwen. Dad, didn't you mention this? Li Xinlan interrupted her father again. Don't you know that the Fang family doesn't accept me? If they don't come to beg me, I will never step into the Fang family again. Let's see who wastes it. Who can win? Hey, Father Li sighed heavily and was speechless. Yao Ifang came out of the kitchen, glanced at her husband, and said, don't worry about what you should worry about. The Fang family hasn't come back either. Why are you so worried? She is your daughter. Father Li rarely raised his voice. Hey, are you venting your anger on me? Yao Ifang laughed exaggeratedly. I didn't say she was not my daughter. Did you stop taking me seriously when you saw her go to college? Father Li. He really couldn't understand his wife's theory, but he knew his wife's character. If he continued to refute, the quarrel would only get worse. Why don't you go to Fang's house and see for yourself? But because of the matter between his eldest daughter and Fang Jingwen, he was usually embarrassed to look up when meeting the Fang family, so now he went there. Seeing that her husband was silent, Yao Ifang returned to the kitchen. After a while, she came out with rice and vegetables and called Li Xinlan to come over for dinner. She didn't even take a look at her husband sitting there. The two of them chatted while eating, laughing from time to time, which made Father Li even more upset. In the past, when the younger daughter had no future, the wife didn't take her daughter seriously, so that was it. Now that the younger daughter has become great, the wife is still like this. He really doesn't know what her wife's heart is made of. No matter how much she despises him, her daughter is the daughter of both of them. If her daughter gets along well, her mother's face will be bright. Why does she always treat her little daughter as an enemy? When the younger daughter told everyone the good news, the wife's first reaction was not to be happy, but to scold him and ask him why he didn't tell her that his younger daughter was going to take the exam, otherwise he would just write about the eldest daughter. The name is ready. My little daughter cried for half the night, not because she was wronged, but because she was so heartbroken. Afterwards, my wife may have felt that what she said was a bit unkind, so she explained to her younger daughter that she said that because she felt that her younger daughter was still young, and it would be the same if she took the exam next year. It was not that she deliberately favored her older daughter. The facts are there, and this kind of covert explanation will only make people more chilling. The little daughter, who was originally talkative, has basically not spoken to her family since that day. The wife scolds Sang and Huai every day, implying that the little daughter no longer has any family members in her eyes, and what will happen to her when she becomes successful in the future. He was confused. She was obviously his biological daughter, and she was the one who fell in love with him first. Why is she like this now? For those who didn't know better, they thought the daughter was born to him and someone else. Father Li sat there sulking for a long time. His wife and eldest daughter had already finished their dinner, so they put all the dishes and chopsticks into the kitchen without even asking him. The kitchen will be tidied up later. Yao Ifang glanced at her husband, said this, and went out with Li Xinlan. There was a movie playing in the yard today, and the two of them had already agreed to go see it. Mom. Is this a bit much? After walking out of the door, Li Xinlan asked her mother in a low voice, Dad actually has nothing wrong with him. He must be even more angry if we do this. You have to leave him alone. If he hadn't hid the fact that Xiaoli took the exam without telling us, you would be the one who received the notice. Now Yao Ifeng sighed, you have been separated from me all your life. This time whatever you say must be remembered for a long time. Mom. After hesitating, Li Xinlan spoke, Xinlai and I are both mom's daughters. Why does mom dislike Xinlai so much? Of course, I am very happy that mom loves me, but this is something I have never thought about. Something you understand. Hey, Yao Ifeng sighed heavily and said nothing, just walked forward in silence. Mom. The more this happened, the more curious Li Xinlan became, so she called softly again. It's okay to talk to you. Seeing that there was no one around, Yao Ifeng continued, it was indeed me who first fell in love with your dad back then, and I really thought that I could live a good life by marrying him. If I had known at that time that he was simply an idiot who couldn't be helped, and I would never marry him, what's the use of a good-looking man? It's not something that can't be eaten or worn. After giving birth to you, when your grandma and grandpa heard that it was a girl, they turned around and left without saying a word. You also know the relationship between me and your grandma and grandpa. They only care about your uncle and uncle in their eyes. Want to hum me? Therefore, while others were in confinement, I had no idea what it was like. Your dad works overtime all day long but doesn't get a cent more in salary. I have to go to work and take care of you at the same time. This kind of life is not what I want at all, so I just want to divorce your dad. Mom won't hide it from you. The workshop director is very interesting to Mom, and he agreed that he can take you with me if I get divorced, and he will treat you as his own daughter. After your dad and I filed for divorce, he said that he couldn't let the children not be with his biological father. If he had to divorce, he would have to keep you. He knew clearly about my feelings for you and knew that I couldn't abandon you. This is what he said. It's hard for me. At that time, my mother found out that she was pregnant again. She originally wanted to secretly remove the child, but your father was very confused about other things, but he understood this matter better than anyone. Father. This is basically forcing me to live with him. If the news spreads, if I abort the child and marry someone else, who will look down on me? Moreover, the workshop director also told me immediately that he cannot destroy other people's families. What do you mean by not destroying other people's families? He was simply afraid of notoriety and fear of affecting his future. Before I could recover, he actually got married to a female worker in the factory. I have no choice but to continue living with your dad, watching the person I want to marry get better and better, and watching my life get worse and worse. How do you feel in my heart? If it weren't for your sister, the person sitting in the factory director's wife's seat today would be me, that short, fat woman. Get out of here. I never thought that my mother had such an unknown past. It's no wonder that my mother hates my sister so much. If I think about it carefully, if it were her, she probably wouldn't like a child born in that situation, right? Mom. Li Xinlan walked to the opposite side of her mother and stared straight into her eyes. Have you really never thought about not wanting me? No. Yao Ifeng looked at her daughter seriously. When I was pregnant with you, my mother was very happy. Of course, she and your father had a good relationship at that time. After you were born, although your grandparents didn't like you, you were very obedient. And my mother has always taken care of me. Throwing you away would be like throwing away half of my mother's life. Therefore, my mother has never even thought about divorce without you. Mom, one day I will let you live a good life. Li Xinlan sighed quietly. If Fang Jingguan is not suitable here, I will. She paused suddenly and looked at Yao Ifeng with surprise on her face. Mom, the man you are talking about is the director of the music factory. Yes, Yao Ifeng nodded, suddenly realized, and slapped her thigh fiercely. Mom, why didn't you think of it before? His son is 2 years younger than you, and he doesn't look like his mother at all. Xiaolan, you are really damn good girl. Do you still have contact between Mom and Director Chu? When her daughter asked this, Yao Ifeng smiled unnaturally. We come and go, but not frequently, more than ordinary workers. Li Xinlan looked at her mother with a smile. Mom, if you have anything to be embarrassed about with me, just go back and forth. Then mom can inquire about his son and see what he likes. Okay, mom will do this as soon as possible, Yao Ifeng readily agreed. She no longer expected to live a good life relying on her husband in this life. All her hopes were on her daughter. For her daughter, of course she didn't care about being shameless. Mom, tell me the truth, you and Director Qu Li Xinlan looked at her mother with a research look on her face. Are they really just friends? Of course Yao Ifeng knew what her daughter was referring to, and her face turned red. Fortunately, the street lights in the courtyard were very dim, and she couldn't see clearly no matter how red she was. She burned herself for a while, coughed, and stared at her daughter dissatisfied. What nonsense are you talking about? Do you think you are that kind of person? Okay, I'm just curious. Li Xinlan held her mother's arm in a flattering manner. I can't complain to my father. Is it okay for my mother to be so anxious? You guys are really good at it. After saying these words, Li Xinlai didn't even look at her mother and sister who were standing there, and walked home without looking back, but her tears rolled down uncontrollably. When she and the Fang sisters came back, they happened to see her mother and sister. Originally, she didn't plan to come over, but after thinking about it, her father would be left at home alone after she left. It was better to please her mother and not let her come again. It was best to make a fuss with her father, but unexpectedly, she heard the reason that she had never understood. The most important thing is that her sister didn't even think that what her mother did was shameful. Do they have any sense of shame? Ours.